السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا والحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. آمين آمين. Inshallah, today we'll be covering the 71st call to the believer in lesson number 61. Also from Surah Al-Hujuraat, we'll be covering ayahs number 6 to 8. And like we mentioned previously, the introduction to the surah, and we mentioned many aspects about the surah, but the most important aspect, we said that the surah contains in most of its verses examples and laws of etiquette, how a Muslim should basically carry himself and the etiquette of a believer. Previously, we spoke about aspects related to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how one should respect the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it was in relation to the tongue, in what we say, in what we do, all of these things. Today's verses also, in terms of etiquette, are related to the tongue, and very important verses with meanings, even though they are specific to situations that occurred at the time, their meanings can be extrapolated to our day-to-day lives. Before we begin, I just want to mention something very quickly to remind all of ourselves. Today is 200 days which have passed on the war on Gaza, on the war on the Palestinians in Gaza, on the genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza. And it is more than 75 years of brutal occupation, of settler colonialism. In fact, prior to that, prior to the date of 75 years that we use, there was, at that time, there terrorist, real terrorist groups of Eastern Europeans, of others who came from outside of Palestine, who entered those lands as refugees, were given a space to live and were treated with respect because of what they had endured, these Jews in Europe, because of the rise of the Nazi party at that time there. And post World War II, also those who came and committed atrocities, meaning in the 75-year period, all these people have been doing this to the Palestinians for more than 75 years, and never has there been a single time where an Arab army has intervened, except apparently it looks like they are on the side of the Palestinians, but they do that which harms the Palestinians more than what benefits them. And this is recorded in history in the very early days where these wars happened in the 50s, and that they went in and they stripped the Palestinians of their weapons, the Arab armies, and then they left Palestine, and they left the Palestinians bare for the taking. And then you had these terrorist groups who now became the government of that country, of that illegal state, come in and brutally kill, pillage, murder, rape, execute, and exile all of these Palestinians from their land. And this is repeating itself now all these years later. Yet later, I'm saying 200 days for one reason. 200 days have passed, and people now become desensitized to even what is currently happening in front of our eyes. What I'm asking everybody is very simple. If your heart is still not bleeding, if you're still not making dua, if you're still not posting on social media, if you're still not giving charity, one simple question needs to be asked. Nobody's going to go for jihad. We're too weak. That's the bottom line. The bottom line, we are too weak to be able to sacrifice our own selves. And when I say jihad, I don't mean you jump on a plane and go for jihad physically. You won't get in. But what I'm trying to talk about is that the sacrifice of our own lives and our own comfort to do something greater than ourselves can only be done by a few. The rest of us are too weak. But that weakness has eventually led us to question ourselves. What is the question? If I don't feel anything in my heart anymore, I don't even make what is at my disposal 24/7 dua. I don't give what is at my disposal in terms of my wealth, but I can spend millions on holidays and cars throughout the year, but I can't give. I give a small amount of money for Palestine, but I bought a $500,000 car and I went for a 200,000 rand holiday. I can't boycott the products which are being used, the profits from those products, to fund the killing of my brothers in Palestine. Simple question. Am I a Muslim or not? Should I consider myself from this ummah or not? Because on the day of Qiyamah, we will be questioned for even the feelings or the absence of feelings in our hearts. We will be questioned for all things. Allah knows what the hearts conceal or what the chest conceal and the treasury of the eyes. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. So all of us, let us reflect and ask ourselves, have I been desensitized to that point? If I was put in that position, would I not want my brethren, Muslim brothers, to at the least just boycott. At the least, just make dua. At the least, give me some of the extra wealth as charity so that me and my children can eat and that those who are injured can be attended to. All of this here needs to be thought about very carefully. We need to reflect on our own selves because, like we know that they are going through a test, we are going through a test. Our test is how do we react in times of comfort. A man's worth is known in times of adversity. A man's worth is known in times of adversity. Now, in times of comfort, we don't do something for somebody who's in adversity. What is our worth? Subhanallah. Let's begin with the verses. So, we're doing the 71st call to the believers in the Quran from Surah Al-Hujuraat. And we'll cover, inshallah, ayat number 6 to 8. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين واعلموا أن فيكم رسول الله لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر لعنتم ولكن الله حبب إليكم الإيمان وزينه في قلوبكم وكره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون فضلا من الله ونعمة والله عليم حكيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in these ayat, the translation of the meanings is, O you who have believed, if there comes to you a disobedient one with information, investigate, lest you harm a people out of ignorance and become over what you have done regretful. And know that among you is the Messenger of Allah. If he were to obey you in much of the matter, you would be in difficulty, but Allah has endeared to you the faith and has made it pleasing in your hearts and has made hateful to you disbelief, defiance, and disobedience. Those are the rightly guided. It is as bounty from Allah and favor, and Allah is knowing and wise. These verses here, they speak about an ill of the tongue. An ill of the tongue. The first verse, verse number 6. O you who have believed, Allah calls out to the believers. And the reason for revelation is specific, which we'll mention, but the lesson is general. If there comes to you a disobedient one with information, investigate lest you harm a people out of ignorance and become over what you have done regretful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here orders the believers that if news comes to you, the word that's used, oh you will believe, if information, the word naba. Naba means any information which is of value. Any information which is of value. For example, two examples. Somebody comes and informs you of the death of somebody. There is information of value, needs to be confirmed. Like we saw many times, we see so and so passed away. Personalities, Muslim personalities, and they're still alive. I'll just tell you a story, a very funny story. Once when I was studying in Al-Madinah Al-Munawwarah, it was just after Asr Salah, and I parked my car in the underground parking in the Haram. And I was going up and I was just going to call one of my friends to ask them where they were sitting. We were studying for exam. So I took my cell phone out and I looked at it and I opened the message. And the first thing I saw on one of the groups in Medina open, Imam of the Haram in Medina, Sheikh Ali Al-Hudayfi has passed away. He was returned to his Lord, and I saw a long message, and I just stepped on the escalators up, and I looked up, and he was coming down the escalator, and I began to laugh. This is what it is. You have to verify information, but the word naba means information of value. Somebody comes and gives you information of no value, no reason to verify it because it's not information that will be spread, not information that is useful to people, nothing of that sort. Nothing of that sort. So this word that's used is naba. Information that needs to be verified is a naba, which means al-khabaru dhu sha'n. Information of value needs to be verified. Allah is ordering this, and He says it should be verified if a fasiq comes to you. What is a fasiq? We'll speak about it. فَتَبَيَّنُوا, investigated, verified. In another narration, فَتَثَبَّتُوا, we'll mention what these words mean. Lest you may afflict a people by your ignorance, by ignorance of verification, whether it's true or not, and then you will become over what you have done regretful. This verse was revealed because of an incident which demonstrates this for us. Imam Al-Qurtubi says, إن هذه الآية نزلت في الوليد بن عقبة بن أبي معيط. This ayah was revealed about a man called الوليد بن عقبة ابن أبي معيط. وسبب ذلك ما رواه سعيد عن قتادة أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعث الوليد بن عقبة مصدقا إلى بني المصطلق. Sa'id mentions that Abu Qatada said that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sent this man, Al-Walid ibn Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, as as the one who collects sadaqah, collects zakat from people. He would send all the tribes around Medina who entered into Islam. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would send people to collect the zakat from them. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sent him to a people known as Bani al-Mustaliq. Now, Bani al-Mustaliq is a tribe. The origins are from Yemen, from Khuza'a, from a tribe called Khuza'a. The mother tribe is Khuza'a, or the root is Khuza'a, and they're from Yemen. And from amongst them were Jews. From amongst them, one of their leaders was a Jew. They also had Jews amongst this tribe, and his name is Al-Harith ibn Dirar. He is the father of Juwayriya, the wife of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There was a battle, and I'm mentioning this because of the importance of this battle. This battle is a battle of Bani al-Mustaliq, where the Muslims went and they fought them, and the reason for this was that they entered into pacts with Quraysh, and then at that battle, then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gained from his share Juwayriya, the daughter of this man, and then she entered into Islam, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam married her, and this battle occurred in the year 6 after Hijrah, or some say 5 after Hijrah. But this incident here is after they became Muslims. This is later on. There is after this incident on the after the 5th or the 6th year of Hijrah, what we're discussing right now. So they were Muslims at this time here, this tribe of, which was at Bani al-Mustaliq. Bani al-Mustaliq, the area actually, is 12 kilometers from Medina on the way to Mecca. On the way to Mecca, 12 kilometers from Al-Madinah, very close to Al-Madinah al-Munawwara. So this man, yeah, Al-Walid ibn Uqba, when he got to Bani al-Mustaliq, or he was coming close to them, they saw him and he saw them, and then he became afraid. And some say he became afraid. The narration is mentioned here by Qatada, is that لِإِحْنَةٍ بَيْنَهُمْ. They had some hatred or malice between themselves. They had some hatred or malice with this man, and he became afraid, so he turned around and he fled back to Al-Madinah al-Munawwara. And he got to Medina al-Munawwara, he told Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, irtaddu. They have apostated. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he heard that they apostated, he sent Khalid ibn al-Walid to confirm this information with a group of men, with a small mini army, a campaign. And they went at night, and then Khalid ibn al-Walid was told by Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, deliberate in this matter. Don't be hasty. Confirm what their status is. Have they apostated on Islam, or are they still on Islam? So Khalid ibn al-Walid, he got there at night, and then he sent al-Uyun, he sent people, spies, into this place to see what is their situation. And they found that these people are still in Islam. So they returned back to Khalid and they said, these people still practice Islam from what we can see. So Khalid ibn al-Walid at that point didn't say, okay, I know anyway. He deliberated as Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ordered. And he remained there up until Fajr. When Fajr time came, he heard the adhan. And then he witnessed their salah. They were reading salah. So he knew they were upon Islam. And then he went into their lands and then he confirmed their Islam. He knew, okay, they were upon Islam, and he confirmed what had occurred. And then he returned to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he informed him. And that's when this ayah was revealed. And this ayah here is specific to this incident in terms of its revelation. Now, I'll just remind you of a rule which we mentioned previously. The rule is as follows. العبرة بعموم اللفظ لا بخصوص السبب. العبرة, the lesson that we take from any single statement. Obviously, there are some statements which are specific and they are only for a specific situation, but statements where Allah calls out to the believers generally. Allah is not calling out to only the Sahaba at that time who believed. العبرة بعموم اللفظ. The lesson that we take is by the generality of the text, not by the specifics of the situation. So even though this ayah was revealed because of a specific situation, the implementation of the law is taken through the generality of the text. Hence, all of us, if somebody who is disobedient to Allah, fasiq, and we'll mention what a fasiq is, has to come to us with information, that information needs to be verified. We need to deliberate over the information. We need to inspect that information. We need to confirm that information. We need to verify that information before it can be accepted and used. So that is what is meant by the verse, and there is the reason of revelation. There is a slightly different reason which is mentioned in another narration, and I'll quickly read it for you, which is the same person and the same incident, but the details vary slightly. It says here in this narration, yeah, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعثه إلى بني المصطلق بعد إسلامهم. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent him to Bani al-Mustaliq after their Islam, as we mentioned previously. فلما سمعوا به ركبوا إليه فلما سمع بهم خافهم. So when they heard about him coming, they got on their rides to meet him. And this was the way of the people. They would meet you on the outskirts and then bring you into their city. فرجع إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأخبره أن القوم قد هموا بقتلي ومنعوا صدقاتهم. He went back to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and made a dangerous statement. He said these people wanted to kill him. He got scared of them and he ran away when he saw them. Then he went to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he got to Medina, and it's close distance. And he said they wanted to kill him and they prevented giving the zakat. They didn't want to give the zakat. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what happened? فهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بغزوهم. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam at that point intended to fight them, because to stop, like Abu Bakr, then when they refused to pay the zakat, he sent out armies to fight the people who refused to pay the zakat. And those battles in Islam are known as حروب المرتدين, the battles against the apostates. They were taken as apostates. So essentially he's saying they have apostated. فبينما هم كذلك إذ قدم وفدهم على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالوا. And while that was happening, they reached Medina, because they were coming out to meet him. They saw him returning, they followed him. It's 12 kilometers on the horses. You'll get there in no time. When they got to Medina, they said to the Messenger of Allah, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, سمعنا برسولك فخرجنا إليه لنكرمه. We heard about your messenger coming to us, so we left and to meet him so that we may honor him. ونؤدي إليه ما قبلنا من الصدقة, and to give him what is upon us from zakat. فاستمر راجعا وبلغنا أنه يزعم لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن خرجنا لقتله. And then we followed him in his return, and then we heard that he is claiming that we have come out to kill him. They're claiming to your messenger that we have come out to kill him. والله ما خرجنا لذلك. By Allah, we have not come out for that. فأنزل الله تعالى هذه الآية. So this ayah, yeah, was revealed. وسمي الوليد فاسقا. And this man Al-Walid ibn Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, he was known as a fasiq at that day. On that day. And there was an argument that happened between him and Ali ibn Abi Talib one day. And he told Ali ibn Abi Talib, I am more eloquent than you. And he began praising himself. Ali ibn Abi Talib told him, you are a fasiq. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses, أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. Is the one who believes like the one who is a fasiq. And some say, well, that's what fasiq actually means, kafir. لا يستوون. They are not equal. So those are the reasons for revelation of this verses. This word, ya fisq, was translated as being the one who is disobedient. It has many meanings. In this situation, like we said, it's talking about this man who is Al-Walid. Ibn Abd al-Barr, Al-Walid ibn Uqba, he says, لا خلاف بين أهل العلم بتأويل القرآن فيما علمت أن قوله عز وجل إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ نزل في الوليد ibn Uqba. He said there is no difference of opinion between the people of knowledge of tafsir that this verse was specifically revealed about this man who was a fasiq, Al-Walid ibn Uqba. Just to put it into context, how many a time have we said things which are untrue? We have lied. If we were in the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do you think that we would be classified as mu'minun, believers, or fusaq? Those who transgress against Allah because of what the tongues may carry in their meanings. The word fisq, there's different meanings that this word can carry. In the Quran, it comes with two general meanings. The first meaning, it comes with the meaning of kufr. It means kufr, disbelief. Sometimes it's used with the meaning of disbelief in the Quran. And the second meaning, it's used in the meaning of, which is less than disbelief, which is transgression against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah uses it in the verses, He describes, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Those are the fasiqun, meaning the ones who accuse chaste women of adultery, in Surah Nur. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Sajda, أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. Is the one who believes like the one who is a fasiq. Yeah, it means disbelieves. لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. They are not equal. In Surah Sajda, it comes with the meaning of kufr, and in Surah Nur, it comes with the meaning of transgression. So this meaning of fisq has two meanings in the Quran. However, linguistic meanings, it has many, and in this verse, the scholars have given many interpretations of the meanings. The first meaning, which is given by Abdurrahman ibn Zayd and Muqatil ibn Hayyan and others, they say that the meaning is al-fasiq means al-kadhab. The transgressor means the one who lies. So it comes with the meaning of lying, kadhib. And the second meaning, it means the one who openly sins. The one who openly sins. And the liar is the one who openly sins. He's openly sinning by lying. And the third meaning, which is the general, more general meaning, it means the one who is not shy of Allah. And that's obviously similar to the meaning of the one who openly sins. The one who is not shy of Allah openly sins. However, if you want to give a more generic meaning, then the following definition can be taken for the word fisq. The word fisq generally means al-khuruj an ta'atillah, to leave the obedience of Allah. Anybody who openly is in the disobedience of Allah is termed a fasiq. And what they bring to you in terms of information should not be accepted until you deliberate or until you verify what they have said. And this is dangerous because the first sin that's mentioned here is kadhib, lying. Inshallah, I'll elaborate on what is lying and what is meant. إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. Allah says فتبينوا. This word فتبينوا, there are two riwayat, two qira'at. Hamza and Al-Kisai, they read it as فتثبتوا. And the others, they read it as فتبينوا. What's the difference in meaning? So one narration, if you read the Quran, he says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, or one of the qira'at, all of them, the Quran was revealed with all of this to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. If you open our Quran, you'll find fatabayyan. You open other masahif, which is on the riwayat of Hamza or Kisai, you read fatathabbatu. What's the difference between these two words? The difference is as follows in literal meanings. The word tathabbatu means to deliberate. It comes from the word التثبت, means to deliberate. And the word فَتَبَيَّنُ comes from the word التبين, which means to inspect. Both of them have a simple meaning. Both of them have a simple meaning. To deliberate and not to be hasty. Both of these words mean the same thing. Inspect, deliberate, and do not be hasty in passing judgment on any information that has come to you. And that's why in a narration, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, At-ta'anni min Allah, deliberation is from Allah, وَلَعَجَلَةُ min ash-shaytan, and haste is from shaytan. أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. Why should we do this? So that lest you may afflict a people by your ignorance and then be after what you have done from those who regret. The reason from this is that to do this is that so you do not regret about the information which you have passed on or acted upon. You must deliberate, you must verify. There is a reason. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a reason. Just to speak about very, very briefly, these verses here are speaking about accepting information. And they're speaking about somebody who openly disobeys Allah. The greatest of information sometimes can be the information of testimony in a court of law, isn't it? The information of testimony, for example, in an action which happens in a court of law, which will be nikah. Essentially, nikah, which is a contract, is a contract which is endorsed by legal rules, and you need witnesses. Those witnesses, the information later on can be used to verify or nullify certain contracts. So I just want to speak about certain situations very briefly about this word fisq, somebody who's considered a fasiq, because many people are considered fusaq, openly sinning. When I say openly sinning, if a woman goes out without the hijab, fasiqa, she's considered that. In Islamic law, her testimony in certain things will not be accepted in a court. And a man, for example, who does something openly sins, whether it may be in his dressing, like the woman, or whether it may be in people's statements, like what we mentioned here, whether they lie openly, whether it may be in business dealings, all of these things, open sinning and mentioning it, classification is fasiq. So in the Sharia, what is accepted and what is not accepted? Very briefly, Imam Al-Qurtubi mentions some of these things, and he says that this verse here is a proof that you are able to accept the testimony of one person if he's trustworthy. The testimony of one person should be accepted if he's trustworthy, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, verify from the one who is a fasiq, open sinner, right? And then he says, and this is because as soon as a person is an open sinner, he's not shy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he won't be shy about lying, hence his statements are nullified. And he says there is a consensus of the scholars. However, there are certain exceptions from this, and then he mentions them. What are the exceptions? In the cases of the a claim or accusation and denial. For example, somebody's a fasiq, they go to court and they say, so and so done such and such a thing to me. Now you don't verify. You accept that accusation of his and it goes to a court of law. You don't say, I need to verify, because that is the actual process of law. Or if that fasiq is brought in and there was a claim against him, then in the Sharia, what is upon him is to take an oath. He must do juhud. He must deny what he done and took an oath. Take an oath. So these things, these fixed matters in the Sharia, when it comes to what they call the claimant and the defendant, verification denial in terms of accusation or creating an accusation, these things need to go to a court of law and they follow their own procedure. It's not that now we don't accept it because you are fasiq. We need to verify it before we can even take it to a court of law. It needs to go straight to a court of law. The second is that if there is proof from this person who is a transgressor about the rights of somebody else, it can be accepted in a court of law, right? It's not about him. He doesn't have any link to it. And the same can be said about a kafir, more than somebody who is a transgressor, even a kafir. If he has proof of something, it can be accepted from him if it is proof, which is accepted. The third exception that can be made is that if there is a claim against somebody who's a fasiq, and that person who's a fasiq confirms the claim. You don't say now we need to verify, we can't accept your confirmation. Why? He's confirming something against him or his own self. It's also accepted in a court of law. Imam al-Shafi'i, he says that based on this, when it comes to nikah, if a person is a fasiq, he can be a wali of a woman. And Abu Hanifa and Malik, they say he can be a wali, and the reason they say for this is that the wali is usually family, he's a father. And they say that if he is given the right, if you're saying that he's a fasiq and he can't be a wali, even though he's a fasiq in terms of his religion, there is still internally within him something called ghira, jealousy for his women. He won't just prostitute his daughter off. He won't do anything with his wife. That's what their analogy was to allow this. However, in today's time, we can't say the same. People watch their daughters and their wives walk around naked, speak to a foreign man, and they have no feeling of jealousy or any feeling of disgust within themselves. They allow it to happen. It's allowed to happen. There's no ghira. We've lost this sense of ghira. And this shows that the fitrah of a person has deviated so far that even their own women, they won't protect them from men. Because, and when I say this, people think it's a statement of a sexist statement that why must men protect women? Only a man knows how another man's mind works. A woman doesn't know it. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the responsibility in the hands of the man. A woman doesn't know how a man's mind works. Only a man knows how another man's mind works, and he is only capable of protecting her more than she's capable of protecting herself. So when men became weak, women deviated. People don't say there's no hijab, women are doing this. When men became weak, women deviated. Why? Because the men allowed this to happen. They are the ones who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in control, and they are the ones who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put upon them a responsibility to protect the women. But when they became weak and they didn't protect the woman from this, that's what happens. That's why you find even people encourage their young daughters to talk to boys. And then you're talking to somebody, it's fine. Today is like non-Muslim. Oh, she has a boyfriend. They're not doing anything. How do you know they're not doing anything? How? And even if they weren't doing anything, if you were naturally according on the al-fitra, on natural predisposition of goodness, you wouldn't want anybody to talk to your daughter, to your wife, to your sisters, to your mother. You wouldn't want it. So that is what the reality of the situation is when it comes to this. That's just a deviation of what we said. Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi, he comments on this and he says, وَمِنَ الْعَجَبِ, on another situation of what Imam al-Shafi'i said, وَمِنَ الْعَجَبِ أَنْ يُجَوِّزَ الشَّافِعِيُّ وَنُظَرَاؤُهُ إِمَامَةَ الْفَاسِقِ. He speaks here now about imamah. The one who is does open disobedience, can he be your imam or not? Some of the scholars say he can be an imam. Nowadays in Salat al-Tarawih, mashallah, or everybody who's a hafiz of the Quran, doesn't matter what they're doing the whole year, put them, they must read in the masjid. Everybody's children must get a chance, or every person who's a hafiz must get a chance. Listen to what Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi says. Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi says, وَمِنَ الْعَجَبِ, and from the amazement or strangeness, he says, أَنْ يُجَوِّزَ الشَّافِعِيُّ وَنَظَرَاؤُهُ إِمَامَةَ الْفَاسِقِ, that Imam al-Shafi'i and those scholars like him allow that the fasiq, the open sinner, be the imam. وَمَنْ لَا يُؤْتَمَنْ عَلَى حَبَّةِ مَالٍ كَيْفَ يَصِحُّ أَنْ يُؤْتَمَنْ عَلَى قِنْطَارِ دِينٍ. And whoever should not be given, he is not trusted, حَبَّةِ مَال, in a grain of wealth, one grain of mustard seed. If he shouldn't be trusted as a fasiq, how can he be trusted in the treasures of religion? Salah. وهذا إنما كان أصله أن الولاة الذين كانوا يصلون بالناس لما فسدت أديانهم ولم يمكن ترك الصلاة وراءهم. And he says this mas'ala came out when the leaders of the Muslims were fusaq themselves. And they used to lead the people in Salah. The Khulafa used to lead the people in Salah up until the time of King Khalid of Saudi Arabia. He also led the Salah. Nowadays, the kings and the leaders don't lead the Salah, Alhamdulillah. But at that time there, they used to lead the Salah. Because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam led the Salah, and Abu Bakr and Umar, those who are pious from this Ummah, from our leaders, until a time came later on, maybe years and years later, where the leaders started openly sinning, drinking openly, doing things openly, and they still led the Salah. So he's saying that this mas'ala came out of that. That people had to read Salah behind them. وَلَسْتُطِيعَتْ إِزَالَتُهُم. And it wasn't, we were not able to remove them from this position of leading the Salah. صُلِّيَ مَعَهُمْ وَرَاءَهُم. So we prayed behind them with them. كما قال عثمان, as Uthman said, الصلاة أحسن ما يفعل الناس. Salah is the best thing what people do. فإذا أحسنوا فأحسن معهم. So if they are perfect in it, then be perfect with them. Or if they are good in it, then be good with them. وإذا أساءوا فاجتنب إساءتهم. And if they are evil in it, they are not perfect in it, then stay away from the evil. ثم كان من الناس من إذا صلى معهم تقية أعاد الصلاة لله. And then there were people from amongst them. If they read with the ruler Salah, they would read with them, and then they would go home and repeat the Salah. This is where you see where it came out from. And Allah knows best. So that's what these verses mean, and that's what they are indicating. As for after that, he says that, and he mentions the last masala, وفي الآية دليل على فساد قول من قال إن المسلمين كلهم عدول حتى تثبت الجرحى. He says that, and there is also a refutation that every single believer is trustworthy until you can prove that he is not trustworthy. And he says this ayah is a proof against it. And he says that لأن الله تعالى أمر بالتثبت قبل القبول, because Allah has ordered that you verify before accepting. So you can't verify everybody is trustworthy, as you should verify information from somebody you know who's not trustworthy. وإنما العمل بالجهالة قبول قول من لا يحصل غلبة الظن بقوله. And he says, however, action, and he summarizes all of this with this statement: action which is done on ignorance is not any action, but it is the action which is done where there is no predominance of assumption. Meaning that if you don't have the predominance of assumption of something that occurred, and then you act upon it as a judge, as a ruler, as somebody who is receiving information, that is acting upon jahala, because not everything can be verified 100%, but there must be a predominance of assumption. Your assumption to accept that must be predominant over your doubt. That's what he says, comes down to, and Allah knows best. Thereafter it says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر لعنتم ولكن الله حبب إليكم الإيمان وزينه في قلوبكم وكره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون فضلا من الله ونعمة والله عليم حكيم. And know that among you is the messenger. Among who is the messenger? Amongst the Sahaba at that time. Allah is telling them, know that amongst you is the messenger. فإن الله يعلمه أنباءكم فتفضحون. And Allah will inform him of your affairs so that it will be made apparent. There is like a threat. Know that the messenger is amongst you. Anybody who lies, it is a threat. Somebody may say this ayah is also specific to that time there, because Allah can reveal something to the messenger, as was done in many situations. And he will know that you are lying. Even in today's time, it's a threat for us. In the hadith, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, لا تتبعوا أورات المسلمين أو كما قال ومن تتبع عورتهم تتبع الله عورته ومن تتبع الله عورته فضحه في بيته. Whoever follows behind the Muslims looking for their faults, Allah follows behind him looking for his faults. And wherever Allah looks for his faults, Allah will make his faults apparent, even if he's in his own house. If Allah can do that, if you look for somebody's faults, don't you think if you lie, one of the faults, lying, also Allah will make it apparent that you lie? He will make your lie something which is apparent that comes out. Very possible. So it's even a threat for us. لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر. If Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had to obey them in this matter, meaning this man came and he gave the information, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you would have been in difficulty. لعنتم. This word anat, it comes with many meanings also in the Quran. Just to clarify, one of the meanings is difficulty, al-mashaqqa, and that's what's meant in this ayah. Another meaning is al-ithm, disobedience to Allah. It comes with another meaning of zina. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word anat as meaning zina, adultery or fornication or fujur. In Surah Al-Tawbah, it comes with the meaning of to fall into a matter which is difficulty. So it has a multiplicity of meanings. We said that there's three meanings. It comes with a meaning of ithm, disobedience. You will fall into disobedience. Or it can come with the meaning of al-fujur, zina. Or it can come with the meaning of al-mashaqqa, difficulty. To fall into difficulty. And that's also in Surah Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses it with this meaning of difficulty. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, however, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ. Allah here is addressing the believers. But Allah has made beloved to the believers al-Iman, Islam, meaning that Allah made beloved to them entering into this until they chose it, until they chose the Iman. Those who do not belie the prophets or lie to him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَزَيَّنَهُ, and he beautified it, meaning he made them their hearts in agreement with it. فِي قُلُوبِكُم, in their hearts. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِسْيَانَ, and he made dislike to them al-kufr, disbelief. Fusuq, what we're speaking about here, we said it translates to disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or defiance. But in this situation, it means al-kadhib. He made dislike to them al-kadhib. Ibn Abbas said it means al-kadhib, lying. Wal-isyan, and isyanya means disobedience, any act which is done in a disobedience to Allah. So Allah made this like to them three things: disbelief in Allah, and lying, and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah mentions these people who love Iman and dislike that, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الرَّاشِدُونَ. Those are the ones who are rightly guided. May Allah make us from the rightly guided. Just to touch on the concept of lying. Lying, we need to touch on it very briefly, because this whole essence of this etiquette which is being mentioned here comes down to lying. Comes down to what the vice of the tongue is, and one of the greatest vices of the tongue is lying. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions lying in the Quran, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions lying in the ahadith, and the warnings based on this are severe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, speaking about lying, that it is a kabira. Lying is one of the major sins of Islam. He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ, meaning لُعِنَ الْكَذَّابُونَ. The liars have been cursed. Cursed means الطرد من رحمة الله. You are rejected from the mercy of Allah. Allah will not have mercy on the ones who lie. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ كَذَّابٌ. Verily Allah does not does not guide the one who is a liar. The one who is a liar, excessive liar. So it basically, lying, you inherit when you lie, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy will not be upon you. The second thing, we said, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, we said it is one of the kaba'ir, one of the major sins of Islam, because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in a hadith that it leads to the fire. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, إن الكذب يهدي إلى الفجور وإن الفجور يهدي إلى النار وإن الرجل لا يكذب حتى يكتب عند الله كذابا. Verily, lying leads to al-fujur, defiance, transgression. And transgression leads to the fire. And verily, a man will continue to lie until he is written with Allah as a liar. The third part, lying is an indication of hypocrisy in the heart. You are a hypocrite if you lie. There are three actions that if a person does them, it is indicative of hypocrisy. May Allah save us from hypocrisy and remove these bad characteristics and traits from us. Ameen. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in a hadith, Ayatul munafiqi thalath. The signs of a munafiq, of a hypocrite, are three. إذا حدث كذب, if he speaks, he lies. وإذا وعد أخلف, and if he promises, he breaks his promise. وإذا اؤتمن خان, and if he is given responsibility, he betrays his responsibility. Three things. From that, if he speaks, he lies. When he speaks, he lies. And that's why you can see lying is of three types. A person who lies upon Allah and His Messenger, and that person is in the fire. As Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu min an-nar." Whoever lies upon me intentionally, let him save his place, let him book his place in the fire. And the one who lies generally, meaning, as we mentioned in the ahadith, that lying leads to transgression. The one who lies continuously. And the last one is lying out of mazah. Just you lie out of joking. Even that is considered something which is not, or something which is frowned upon, or it's included within these verses. When you lie out of joking, you joke and you lie excessively. Because that person, you find people who excessively do this. Every statement they say, you don't know whether it's the truth or a lie, because why? They're prone to joke by lying. That is what is meant. وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَا يَكْذِبَ حَتَّى يُكْتَبَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَذَّابًا. And a man will continue to lie until Allah writes him down as a liar. Then he can't stop lying. However, there are exceptions to this. When can you lie? And there is not our topic, but I'm bringing it in because it relates to lying, which is the etiquette which is being manifested in these verses. There is three instances where a person can lie. In the instance of war, and I'll elaborate briefly. In the instance of joining between two rivals, or al-islah bayna ithnain, to join between two are fighting, brother and sister, between two tribes, two families, all of that, to join between them. And the last one is between husband and wife. Right? What is the dawabit? What is the rules of lying in these situations? Or the examples? The rules as follows. If you want to lie in these three situations, there must be three things that comes with this line. There must be three conditions that must be fulfilled. Condition number one, the outcome of this lying must not be harmful. It cannot cause harm. If it causes harm, you cannot lie. The second, the benefit that comes out of this must be greater than what would have occurred had you lied, must be greater than the harm that would have occurred. So if the harm was going to be very small, it's not going to affect anybody really, then you don't lie. So the benefit must be greater than that harm. And the third one, it must lead to something which is allowed in the Sharia, not something which is prohibited. Example of each one to make it clear. What are the rules? In times of war, you can lie. Right. For example, people capture you. You are prisoner of war. They torture you for information about somebody. At that point, you can lie. Why? Because it's going to cause the Muslims harm if you release that information. If you release that information, it's going to cause the Muslims harm. So you can lie and tell them false information. You can tell them false information. But now you must wait up. For example, if the information they're asking for is not going to do anything, but they're going to kill you by torturing you, which one is better? Tell them the information that's not going to harm anybody else instead of losing your life. Why? Because you say I can lie in the situation, I'm not lying. No, and you must wait up. Is the outcome of this year going to be, is it going to outweigh any harm that will come to us? If it's not going to be any harm, they ask you for information, you give it to them, it's not going to harm anybody, that information. But if you don't, they're going to torture you to death. You lose a limb. No, then you give it up. So in terms of battle, you can lie when it's times of war. But can you lie and cheat people? For example, if it's going to lead to haram, you tell a lie in battle so that a people get now prosecuted. You say they done such and such a thing, the command of the army comes, he executes them. You lied about them. You say, no, they're kuffar, we can lie about them. He doesn't ransom them off for something, maybe. You can't. You're cheating. It mustn't be ghadr. There mustn't be treachery. The lying must lead to something which is halal. The benefit must be greater than the harm, and it must not harm anybody. Your lying must not cause harm for somebody else. You're lying and you're seeing the benefit for me is greater, but it's harming somebody else. No, can't work. Then you must speak the truth. So the first exception is in battle under these rules. The second exception, like we said, if you're joining between two fighting parties, we have two brother and sister fighting over something, you go and you tell, and there's not a lie actually. You go and you say something to them so that it causes them to come back together. So instead of them fighting, you can say something, what we call a white lie. You sugarcoat some information to make it more palatable for the both of them, khalas, no problem. But with that, these three conditions that we mentioned must be fulfilled. If they're not fulfilled, you can't do it. And the last one is between husband and wife. You sit down on the eating table. You're eating the food your wife made. She asks you, how's the food? You don't like the food, say, I like it. Why? Whether you said, I like it or you don't like it, you're going to eat that food. You're going to eat that food. She's not going to get up and make you a new meal. Firstly. Secondly, you look at the maslahah, the outcome. If your wife is a woman who can't tolerate this, you saying, I don't like the food, you're going to hurt her feelings. There's going to cause fights between you. So it's going to harm her. And the last thing, if you lie about this, is it leading to something haram? It's not leading to something haram. So you can do it. So the outcome in terms of marriage, and the opposite for the wife as well, is that you can lie. If these three conditions are met, what's the outcome of it? To preserve the love or the peace between husband and wife. So these are the only three situations where lying is allowed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thereafter says in the last ayah, فَضْلًا مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَنِعْمَةً. There is a bounty from Allah, فَضْلًا مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَنِعْمَةً وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. There is a bounty from Allah and a favor. What is a bounty from Allah and a favor? Your iman, your ability to not lie. Everything is a bounty and a favor from Allah. Do we think that we have chosen, MashaAllah, I memorized the Quran, I'm a hafiz of Quran, I done something, it was a bounty from Allah upon you. I gave charity, mashallah. It's a bounty from Allah upon you that He used you to give the charity. Mashallah, I went and I studied so much and I helped so many people and I done so much charity and I learned so much and bounty from Allah upon you. Mashallah, Allah gave me the bounty of wearing hijab. I wear hijab and I cover and I obey Allah. Bounty from Allah upon you. Not you have done something from Allah. Allah has done something for you. Another person, Allah made the test difficult. He made the test difficult. Your test is easy. MashaAllah, you grew up in an area where people are going to the masjid. I go and I read Salat al-Jama'ah, Salah in Jama'ah. Bounty of Allah upon you. MashaAllah, I'm so generous. Bounty from Allah upon you. It's not your generosity. It is nothing to do with us. That is why, if you were to count the bounties of Allah, you cannot enumerate them, because even counting the bounty is a bounty of Allah upon you. Even you being obedient to Allah is a bounty of Allah upon you. It is His favor and His bounty upon you that He has guided you to that. Were it not for Him, you would have not been guided. This is the reality we need to understand, because sometimes a people may become arrogant. May Allah save us from this type of arrogance when they feel that they are obeying Allah and others disobey. Not knowing that that is a bounty of Allah upon them, and what they have been afflicted now in their arrogance is a sickness of the heart that they know that they do not know they even have. And it may be somebody else who was not blessed with hijab or not blessed with any other bounty, giving charity, but they don't have this arrogance in their heart. Maybe their status is better in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. And there is no bounty except Allah, and the bounties of Allah, if you would try to enumerate them, you cannot. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. And there is no bounty upon you, no favor upon you, nothing you can find good in your life. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ, except that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is the end of these verses. And this surah has one more set, or three more calls to the believers, which we'll discuss in the next lesson, inshallah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.